Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at 1997 Pinnacle football, the swan song to the sport where they had started. And what I mean by that is in 1991, Score started their first premium brand, which was Pinnacle. And they started in football, and then they used it also in hockey following that. So it would have been nice for them to close out their time in sports with football, but it didn't work out that way because, you don't plan for bankruptcy, so they just kind of ran out of steam. But this ended up being the final example of Pinnacle football cards, and it was a great way for it to go out. Now, Pinnacle started off really well, and then it kind of lost some of its energy, and in 1995 it created a phenomenal card, and a card that could stand up as just about the best card that you would possibly be able to see from Pinnacle. 1996 they kind of fell off. Well, fortunately in 1997 they picked it back up and made a card that could easily rival 1995, and really, at least on the front, it could easily rival 1991 as well. It was a great creation. The 1995 card opted for simplicity, but they also had kind of a heavy feel to the card. The tones, the colors in the card weren't super vibrant. They were vibrant, but still the card had, it was like a mid to upper tier in terms of how well the image could pop off the card. 1997, they heightened that even further. This is a full bleed card like they had done in 1995. But in this case, they really ramped up the saturation to kind of right to the edge. Now, I love it. I think that this is about the best in terms of coloration. If you're going to heighten the color on cards and really turn up the saturation. In 1993, I thought Upper Deck got a little bit too far and got a little bit too candied. In this case, I thought that it came through beautifully, just wonderfully vibrant, really right on point. The cards are rich and exciting. And on top of that, they did a good job with the accoutrements, the design components. They have a little bit of gold up on the top, but then right down toward the bottom, they have a kind of a sash that sweeps down with gold foil on the outside and a silver holofoil on the inside, which has almost not quite a mirror-like effect, but it creates a little bit of liveliness, just a touch. And then the player's name is fanned out across that in team color with gold foil around the outside. Now, a little note, the way that the team color comes through in that, it's kind of like an enamel. And enamel is a jewelry technique where you put something inside of a metal frame, and it's got a lacquered quality to it. It's basically, it becomes kind of like stone. It's similar to glass, but not quite like glass. And it's a really cool technique that jewelers are able to use to create a wonderful miniature element. This is something that's been used for centuries. And that's what this comes across as. So the actual, just the way that it looks like a little pennant or a little piece of jewelry stuck right in the middle of the card. It reads beautifully. But again, it is really about the colors in the saturation and the really good job they did of choosing images where it allows you to stay focused on the player and you get to feel the vibrance of the action. Now, unfortunately, I can't say the same for the card back. The card back is serviceable, it's functional, but it's almost like they were apologizing for just how well they did in designing the card front. That's kind of the way that I look at it. You got to put a card back on it, and it does okay. It was kind of almost a foreshadowing of the 98 score set they would create, but for Pinnacle, it just doesn't quite work. But that's fine, it's a card back, it's there. But this card set did have parallels like they've been doing in previous years, and they did two parallels. They did their trophy and they did their artist proof. Now, the trophy and artist proof cards, they look very different from what had been done in the past. And they used much of the same technique, but the cards came across in a different way. First off, the trophy cards, they took the whole background and they made it black and white, or they made it basically silver tones. And so that means the player really stands out. And if there happens to be a second player who's tied in with the main player, then he is kind of subdued. So the whole card has not quite dewfects. This is a little bit more like what you saw in Fleer Metal, but still a similar technique. The whole card becomes very lively. You have a big radiating pattern coming out, covering it, and the player himself, he has jewel-like qualities to how the light reflects and refracts off of his portion of the card. But like I said, if there's a second player, that player is kind of subdued maybe still in color, but subdued so that you really do see the main player on the card. It's a wonderfully vibrant card. It really does look good. And it looks like a major departure from the regular card. It's impressive what they pulled off. But you'll notice on the card back, the card number it's different from the main cards in the set. This card actually has a P number in front of it. So all of the trophy cards and the artist proof cards all use that same P number. But it's different from the main cards in the set. And unlike in 1998 Score, where they would, in the checklist, actually let you know the corresponding numbers, here they didn't do that. This is what would be considered a skip number set. Basically, some of the players in the set have the parallels. And so card number 1 would still be card number 1, but card number 20 might become card number 16. So after the first skipped player, then all the card numbers change for the parallel, which is the reason that you have the P number. It's really significant to have that P. But that means that if you have a 100 card set or a 120 card set from a 270 card set, now you have no idea how they correlate, and even though you know all the card numbers and you can piece them together, you don't necessarily know how to put together a checklist or know which players are in this set. So I wish they had done a checklist so that you could know what the entire set of this parallel is. Regardless, some of the players have parallels, some of them do not. And if there is a trophy card, there's also an artist proof card. So, but at least they didn't do like 1996 Stadium Club where they just left the numbers on here. Here they did actually reshuffle the numbers so that you can collect the entire set. You can make sure that you get all the numbers. Like I said, these cards also come as an artist proof, and in this case, they just got rid of the background completely, so it's just the player. And the background basically turned into this big, it's kind of like golden rays of light shining down from one side. It's super, super vibrant, really, really impressive. I love the way that this card looks. But something that you'll note, I talked about how the sash down on the bottom, it had a holofoil. Well, in the silver, it's got a bunch of little hash marks so that it has the same refractive quality that the rest of the card has. And then with gold, they did the same thing. But also, the enamel of the player name is replaced with a really intricate little detailing of kind of like gold. And it's the same with the trophy as it is with the artist proof. So both of them come through really well, but it has a different kind of jewel-like quality to it. So really cool cards. The set also came with rookies, which were done from the rookie photo shoot, and this means they tend to have like grass behind them or sky, something like that. So you don't see as much of a change when you shift over to the parallels. So the parallels oftentimes have the trophy cards often look very similar to the artist proof cards, just without the little logo on it, and with the basically silver tone as opposed to the gold. And obviously the array coming from a different place, and the array working in a different way. They also had a subset called Instincts. And in this case, this is almost like a skybox-like approach. They have this big target symbol, or not a target symbol, but target-like echoes. And this is all done in a team color. And then they have some of the card background, and then they have some effects on the card background. Not really all that great, but it is kind of cool that they use the holofoil for the Instinct text. But this set is really cool when you look at the parallels. The trophy collection I think that the trophy collection is actually better, because in the case of the trophy collection cards, it has a black to silver tone effect. And that black, that deep onyx quality to it, it really helps to enunciate the player. So the player is the only color on the card just popping right out. Looks gorgeous. I do love the contrast of the gold and the silver on the artist proof. I mean, no complaints about it. I just really love how the trophy collection card comes through. And then they close the set out with a couple of checklists, which do not have parallels. And the checklists come from the Quarterback Club photo shoot. And Pinnacle really enjoyed working with the photo shoot for the Quarterback Club. In this case, they had a little section of bus, and then I wish that they had done it so that all three of these cards could line up in a row like a continuous bus. But at any rate, they have 3 players, 3 players, 3 players, and the guys on the outside are playing keep away with the football from the guy in the middle. Okay, I mean, I love the concept of this. This was where they were playing around for kids, and I think it was a great thing. I don't think it looks great, but I do love it in its pure essence. And like I said, these cards do not have the special parallel renumbering mentioned on it, which again, I think is too bad. But with that quarterback photo shoot, Pinnacle took full advantage of it. So for the player cards, for some of the players, they used these really interesting shots. For instance, John Elway, he has Popeye arms and he's basically throwing a missile. With Brett Favre, he has a Superman, well, a superhero suit on. With Boomer Esiason, he's giving you a lecture. You've got Kerry Collins with an Elvis impersonator outfit. And then something I really enjoy in all of this is with the Mark Brunell card, they actually have Steve Young in the background. And it's almost kind of tough to tell whether this is a Mark Brunell card or if it's supposed to include Steve. It's strange to see that. But it becomes very clear when you start looking at the parallels. So the first parallel obviously is the trophy, and in the trophy you can see that Steve is kind of fading to the back, and then when you shift over to the artist proof, he just disappears. And it's funny because he's so prominent on the card and he's such a prominent player, and then he just kind of fades his way into the background. I get a kick out of it. I think it's really funny how that ended up working out. But these are really nice cards. And if you like these cards, good news, because Pinnacle, for their blister packs, they included a jumbo card of, this is a 24 card set of some of the players, including just about all of the photo shoot cards. And so 24 cards, all individually numbered, just like with the parallel, and you get to see much larger images from this same photo shoot. So in the case of Cordell Stewart, you have his slash shot. They're really cool cards. But I got to talk about the insert cards, and there are just a couple of them. But they get pretty complex. Starting off with Team Pinnacle. Now, Team Pinnacle they'd been doing this just about since the beginning. And player on the front, player on the back, that just didn't change. But they did start doing some parallels. And in this case, they got kind of carried away, which is kind of fun. So first off, every single card has a front and a back, and on the front of the card it has a mirrored surface. Now they call it foil, which is misleading. It's really a mirrored surface. But they have that on the front, and then the back is kind of a plasticky look, but it's just white. But they also have it in reverse, and it appears that the reverse is a little bit more rare. I don't know. Nobody's mentioned that it's more rare, and it could be hobby and retail, the way that works out. Regardless, the mirrored foil surface can either be on the front or it can be on the back. It's two versions of every card, but there's a third version as well, where they take the foil front and they replace it with a hollow foil mirror front. And that's really the way that the card should be referred to, is the hollow foil versus just the regular. But regardless, people usually refer to the hollow foil effect as the mirror, because that's how it's always referred to for us. So that, understand, when people say mirror, they actually mean hollow foil. I don't know that they've done it on the back. I have researched this for years. I have never either encountered or even heard about the hollow foil being done on the back of the card. So I believe there are only 3 versions of every card: the white front, the white back, and the white back with the hollow foil front. I'll say it that way to get the mirror and the foil out of the discussion. They also did a scoring core set. This is groups of 3 players for each team. And in each one of these cases, they have obviously the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, who are the stars of the team. But these are die cut. And normally we think of Stadium Club when we think about these die cut puzzle-like configurations. Well, they did this here in 1997 with Score. So it's a unique feature, and this has foil with some with the effects that you see from, say, Fleer Metal on the cards. So cool thing, but these cards also come with different versions, because in the main set you have just this. But they also did a promo set of just the Cowboys cards, the 3 Cowboy cards. On the back it says promo, so you can find those in that form. But they also, in other releases, did preview cards. And in this case, it's random players. I don't believe it's the entire set, but I don't know. I'm working on trying to put together as much of a checklist as I can to figure out if it is everybody. But there are a number of prominent players I think I would have run into at this point. But there are definitely at least 5 different players who have these preview versions. And unlike the promos, which do have, on the back it looks basically the same as the cards in the set. With the previews, there's no back. It talks about previews. There's no card number, no way for you to collect it. Just some of the players do have that preview back. They also did a set of cards called Epix. Now, Epix or Epix is a very ambitious affair. Basically, Score had 3 main brands and then a bunch of things like Express and Mint that they were doing. But the 3 main brands were Score, Pinnacle, and Select, or it had become certified. So Select became Select Certified and then Pinnacle Certified. So at this point, Select was basically gone, Certified had replaced it. So those were the 3. And they created a card set that spanned all 3. Now it's a little bit cumbersome. Epix uses an effect on the front, and it's got kind of like a grid pattern on it. I love the way the promo card looks, and I wish that they'd done that for the regular set, but they didn't. But each card comes with 3 different versions, and each of those versions comes with 3 different versions. So there are 9 cards. We'll get to that. Every single card comes with the foil effect on it that has kind of a radiant kind of a pattern. It has the grid marks, and it has a shot of a player. We're starting off here with Orange Game. So Game is the basic level. That is the most common card that you get. And it has just a radial pattern for the effect. And then the next level is Season. And Season has kind of like a squiggly line effect over what had been done with the game cards. These are a little bit more rare. And then there's a third one, which is Moment. And here it's more like an explosion and some patterns. Very vibrant, very interesting card. So those are the 3 versions of the cards. And the images are different on every card, but also on the card back, the images are different, the text is different. So they function in very different way. So every player has 3 versions of each card, but they have 3 different colors too. So the most common color that you get is orange. They also come with purple, and the purple is more rare, and then they also come in green. So that means that you have 3 different versions of every card and 3 different colors of every card, which gives you 9 total cards for every player in the set. And the set is grouped in 3 groups of 8. So there are 8 players and then 8 players and 8 players. So in every single release, the first 8 players will be in one color, all 3 versions of the card, but one color. And then for the next group of 8, all 3 versions of the cards come in a different color and then a different color. So where the first group of cards come in orange, the second group of cards will come in, say, purple, and then the third group of cards would only come in green. In another release, they would come in purple, and then the second group in green, and then the last group in orange, and likewise for the third group. So that means that Pinnacle had one group, had coloration, a certain color for each one of the groups. Certified had all different coloration for the different groups, and then in 1998 Score, they did the third group, and then that led into another Epix that they didn't even bother to fill out because they couldn't get around to it. But that is the way that this set worked, which means you had to collect 97 Pinnacle, you had to collect 97 Certified, and you had to collect 98 Score. Kind of maddening in the days before heaven shone down upon us and radiated that glorious contribution to mankind, eBay, which made our lives a whole lot easier. So now you really can collect these cards, but it was pretty tough. So understand, there are 9 versions of every player, and the card numbers are all the same, just so that you know. But the whole 24 card set is like that. They did make all of the cards. So that was what they did for their main set. Then they did some other stuff, starting off with their Rembrandt cards. Now, Rembrandt is the company that owns Ultra Pro, which makes card pages, penny sleeves, top loaders, all sorts of stuff. In the 90s, oftentimes you could buy a 9-count box of pages, and inside there might be a card. And so Ultra Pro had a deal with Stadium Club, and at this point they did it with Pinnacle, where when you open up the box, there would be one of these Pinnacle cards in it. And the cards were 9 different players, and they had a bronze strip right down the left side. You could also find it with the silver or with the gold. But it didn't just come in card pages. You could also get a complete set that had all 9 cards, but one of the players was not bronze. He was either silver or he was gold. So that's the way that these cards came. And so there are 27 total cards. They also did some interesting things heading into 1998, starting off with FanFest, where they did a special John Elway card where it was looking back at his Yankees career. And what I mean by that is, for those of you who don't know, John Elway was a two-sport star in college, and when he came to the NFL, he wasn't all that excited about being selected by the Colts. So just like with Bo Jackson and an Eli Manning, he threatened to just not play for the team that selected him and forced a trade, which, like with Eli Manning, did in fact work. But John, unlike Eli, John had the ability to literally fall back onto baseball, and he threatened to do that. So the Baltimore Colts had no choice. John was about to become a baseball player, but thankfully for all of us, or thankfully for all of us who weren't Oakland Raiders fans, he went ahead and he was still able to play football. So this is a really unique card in that way. They also did a special set of cards for collectors of players, which was kind of like a preview for 1998, so those exist. But they also did two really strange things where they did 3D puzzles and little decal stickers. So the puzzles are, this is a couple of different players, and it is a puzzle using the Sport Flicks effect. Really kind of a cool idea. Now, it's difficult to make that work because they tend to bend, they're really thick, but it's an interesting little thing that they threw out there right at the end. They also did their zoomers, though, and this was a grid of all of the teams, and it's just helmets for each team. That's basically all it is. So those are two things you may run into. But this is basically the end for Pinnacle in football, which is sad because they were a great company, and they were really right at their height. 95 and 97 were incredible years. And you can just look at all of the inserts that they made. They were having a lot of fun. And the Epix, they were having fun across the entire band. So it was unfortunate that it came to a close, but all things do come to a close at some point, and it was quite a way to go out. So that's basically about all there is to say about this. I hope that you've learned some stuff. Hope you were able to follow along and really keep track and make sure that you've got everything down. If you do have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments and I'll answer them. If you haven't subscribed already, do so. Definitely check out my other videos. If you're curious about the entire run of Pinnacle, I've done all the other videos. Check them out. Thank you very much for watching.